Tom Shales and James Andrew Miller are here. Their new book is called Live from New York. It tells the story, of course, of Saturday Night Live, 27-year history through first-person accounts from the stars, from the writers, and from the guests. Tom Shales is the Pulitzer Prize-winning television critic for the Washington Post. James Andrew Miller is a journalist and the author of Running in Place. I am pleased to have both of them at this table. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How did this thing get started?
Got started.
This book being the thing.
Yes.
The thing. That's what we call
thing.
it. Affectionately. Yeah.
Affectionately. When are we going to finish this thing in that mood?
That was heard many times.
Go ahead, Jim.
It got started because it was actually Lauren's idea. I think he decided it was time that an exhaustive history be put in place. 28 years of shows and stories, and I think he wanted it all in one place.
Yeah.
There had been a book, but it ended about 1980, I think, or 85, something like that. Yeah. It was a good book, and then we wanted it to be different, and Jim came up with the idea of making it an oral history.
First-person account. Yeah.
Right. It's like a documentary on the printed page, and you read what everyone said, sometimes conflicting statements, sometimes combative statements, whatever, but it does give you roughly a history of the past 27 years.
Why is this show so successful?
I think it constantly keeps up with the times. It is a voice for us about what is going on in the culture and what is going on in politics, what's going on in music. It's the most contemporary thing we really have, aside from evening newscasts, and no one watches that for enjoyment. I think it's been able to reinvent itself. I mean, the fact that you have presidential election years where people look to Saturday Night Live, not only for some of their news, but because they really want their take on it. That's the place that they go to find out how this feels, how this is. I mean, that's just an amazing thing to do for 27 years.
I'm going to talk about the characters now. Chevy Chase.
Well, he certainly got the show off to a great start. I mean, during the first 5-6 weeks. Yes, during the first 5 or 6 weeks of the show, Chevy was the only one who got to say his name on Chevy Chase and You're Not. No one else was doing that. He was the first anchor of Weekend Update, so he was all by himself, falling down, playing the president, saying live from New York, all that stuff, great. He made the decision to leave after the first season, which was very controversial. There was a lot of resentment amongst the cast members. There was a little resentment beforehand because they thought he had gotten too big and left them all alone. But the real story of Chevy Chase in this book is how he has constantly managed to alienate cast after cast after cast through the years.
I know that. I read that in this book. What is it he does?
Well, he's pretty tough. He's pretty hard on the furniture. Case in point, Terry Sweeney, who was the first openly gay cast member of Saturday Night Live, tells a story in the book where Chevy came to guest host, and Chevy said to him, "Well, you're the gay one, right?" And he says, "Well, let's do a sketch where you're dying of AIDS, and every week you come in and get weighed, and we see how close it is." Yeah, on the show, and we see how close you are to death. Not a great way to get along with the group.
It's like they have gross out humor on the show, but he went too far even in that direction. And I've seen him. A kid brought in tea when we were talking, and he spilled a little on the tray, and Chevy just tore into him. It was like, "Oh, you stupid idiot," and I'm not using the words he used. Yeah. And I think it's like he doesn't realize that he's saying these things, and they hurt people, and they come off as mean. And I feel bad that the critics, so many reviewers, played this up.
I mean,
really
this book is not
I know. Oh, boy. It's not an attack on Chevy Chase. We are very grateful to him for participating. He was invaluable. I mean, we couldn't have done it without him because he was so important that first year to get him up to big star. But he did receive more criticism
than any other big star.
Yes. He definitely has that honor.
And the one who seemed to be the most beloved was Gilda Radner.
Yes.
Without question.
Yeah.
You can't find anybody anywhere to say something negative about her. She is perfection. I think she's one of my favorites, and I think that what's amazing is for story after story where everybody had kind of like one person that they would always go after, and beyond Chevy, no one went after Gilda. Everybody just had wonderful things to say to her. I mean, it was real sad for us not being able to talk to her.
If you ask all the staff, all the people who've been all the people who've come through Saturday Night Live, who's the most talented person to walk through here? Here's my small, I don't know who it might be. I would certainly think on some people's list would be John. Don't you?
Yes. Top 5, gotta be.
He'd be in the top 5. Who else would be in the top 5?
I would say Gilda.
Eddie Murphy. No.
Eddie, yeah.
Eddie,
Yes.
3. That's 3. Would Bill?
Bill Murray?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
He was one of the most articulate people we talked to, and sometimes even movingly, poetically eloquent about
He was my
his
favorite interview
memories.
for the whole book.
Yeah, we let his quotes
Because-
run on forever because they're so
He's
good.
so smart, and Billy actually adopted a comedic sensibility that is used to this day. I think what he did on Saturday Night Live and what he later did in like Caddyshack and stuff, there's just something it's just like a little judo move that's a little off kilter that no one else can do like him.
But everyone imitates him
And
on
everyone
Sports
imitates
Center,
him.
on ESPN.
Yeah.
On, so you were doing 5.
I would
5
add,
is 4, okay.
my 5th would probably be Chris Rock. It wasn't always evidenced on the show, but he was so smart and so funny.
Well, see, there we disagree because he's a stand-up and a solo act, and I never thought he melted into the team.
You guys have gotten great stories here, and here are 2 of them. Number 1 is Bill Murray. Bill Murray had a hard time breaking in, did he not? It wasn't easy. He was not an instant star.
No, not at all.
And took him for a while to get the what? To get the chops, what?
Get the audience on his side.
Yeah, and he finally created a character that...
Oh, yeah, it started with a shower mic
Yeah, right,
sketch about a guy who gets a shower mic and sings ad nauseum, blah, blah, blah. And that turned into Nick, the lousy lounge singer, who's one of our favorite characters, who would pop up in these places, these backwater, dives where people were not interested at all in having live entertainment. I've been in many such places where you get live entertainment whether you want it or not, and entertainment in quotes. But he and Paul Schaefer, worked that out.
The lyrics to Star Wars.
It was terrific. But the way he really won over the audience was to simply directly talk into the camera and say, "Hi, I'm not working out on the show. I don't know why." And he did a whole little monologue.
Oh, yeah, that was the point I was trying to remember. The other point that was interesting is that Billy Crystal.
Wow.
You say probably delayed his career by 10 years because...
Well, he was scheduled to be on the first show. In fact, he had been commuting in from Long Island during the weeks leading up to the first show, rehearsing his 6-minute monologue, and he was all set, and he was sitting there in makeup and all ready to go. And Lorne came out and told Buddy Moore, his manager, and Billy that they would have to cut the monologue from 6 minutes down to 2. And Buddy and Lorne had a very heated battle because Billy couldn't do it, and Buddy wound up walking Billy out of the show. And Billy, to this day, I mean, that just shows you what this show could have been and was for people. I mean, he still says, "God, I felt so bad. I carried it around with me for years." I mean, he would have been on the first show, and, he thinks it would have ignited his career a lot faster.
His talent was there, and so he would have burst out.
Yeah.
There's also a story of Belushi, who didn't like women writers.
Yeah, I think he eventually got cured of that. But they would actually have to cross out Rosie Schuster or Marilyn Miller's name and put,
Say John Miller.
Right, John Miller or Alan Zweibel, whoever, because they had to fool him into thinking a man wrote the sketch. I don't know where that came from, but he seemed to get over it. And like Lawrence says, he wouldn't do drag, but then eventually he did do a famous impression of Elizabeth Taylor on a diet, remember? And she eventually gives herself the Heimlich maneuver and a piece of chicken.
It was an all-chicken diet. Yeah.
Nothing but chicken. I'm eating nothing but chicken. So insane, but so funny.
There is also guest host. My favorite would be Steve Martin.
Well, Steve Martin, he hosted the most popular show in 1978, I think it was, but he also, from King Tut to, he just, Wild and Crazy Guys, he was a real important part of the show.
Because he always, like everything he does, he takes it seriously, professionally. He's there early. He works harder on the skits than anybody.
Tom Hanks is another host like that.
Yeah, Tom.
There are a few hosts who they can always count on who really come and deliver the goods. People talk about Steve Martin and Tom Hanks writing in the hallways at 3 a.m. They'll do whatever it takes.
Who are the other guest hosts you like?
Well, John Goodman. He's always a good sport. And who else? There's a seven-timer club. They even did a sketch about it once. People who've hosted more than 5 or 7 times. Of course, I love it when they have non-entertainment people on. Like John McCain.
That was John McCain.
Right, a few weeks ago. He did a great job.
He did. And Al Gore's coming up.
Yeah.
Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Very.
He's rehearsing right now.
Yeah,
He's rehearsing right now.
Take a look at this. I want to just show. This is a montage of the best of Saturday Night Live from the 1970s, just to give you an example of what's in this book and what's made this program legendary.
I'm gonna Get me a shotgun and kill all the whiteys I see. Get me a shotgun and kill all the whiteys I see.
They're gonna find out about you someday, though. Oh, yes. Yes, having sex with women, the president, within these very walls. That never happened when Dick Nixon was in the White House. Never.
Now, if I'd known they'd line up just to see him, I'd taken all my money and bought me a museum. King Tut. Buried with a donkey. He's my favorite honky.
Todd, are you okay?
I'm not sick, but I am hot for you.
Todd! Don't sit so close to me.
What is that bewitching scent you're wearing?
Vicks Vapor Rub.
And here is a thing I will tell you. The two most swinging foxes had the hots on for us and are coming here tonight to let us hold on to their big American breasts.
Aykroyd, you mentioned. What did he contribute to this?
Oh, a lot. I mean, his spirit. He had a great. The story of his audition is pretty funny. Too long to tell, really. But he was a very original thinker and another Canadian. I mean, this was really a Canadian invasion. This show. I don't know if Gilda was born in Canada, but she was up there at the time.
And Lauren, of course.
Lauren is yes, absolutely, and Rosie Schuster and so many of them.
Are there famous people who've gone on to be big stars, either comedic or otherwise, who were turned down by Saturday Night Live? Are they famous turndowns?
Well, one of the most recent examples is Lisa Kudrow, who tells us in the book that she was brokenhearted when she auditioned, and it came down to her and one other person. She lost out. Julia Sweeney was the other person, and she said, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be, and of course she's now only making, $22 million a year on Friends. So.
Yeah, right. All right, take a look at this. This is a montage of the best of Saturday Night Live from the 1980s.
To congratulate George on his startling victory in New Hampshire. He's doing well in the South. He's had a wonderful reign as vice president. Tell me, are you proud of your son?
Who calls us stupid is just jealous because their girlfriend looks at us and looks at him and realizes she's cuddling up with a little girly man.
Yeah. Akhmanov is getting set now. He's going for a clean and jerk of over 1,500 pounds, which would triple the existing world record. That's an awful lot of weight, Dennis, and here he goes.
Stay the course. 1,000 points of light. Stay the course.
Governor Dukakis, rebuttal.
I can't believe I'm losing to this guy.
Dana, I think that's one of the best impressions, political impressions, that they've ever had.
Yes, and you can actually see it evolving if you go back through the clips, because the first time he did it was this Republican primary sketch that Jim and I love so much, and he didn't quite have it yet, and then eventually he nailed it perfectly, and then everyone was doing impressions of his impression.
Yeah, and Bush 41 loved it so much, and he invited him to the White House.
Yeah, that's a case of kind of being co-opted too. I mean, Bush, the political figures who get lampooned, they use it to their advantage by feigning, at least, or maybe genuinely pretending to have a great sense of humor.
Right.
So Bush invites him to the White House and puts him in the Lincoln bedroom, and then I sometimes wonder, well, does that take a little of the sting out of the satire, subsequently?
But I think, they've satirized me a number of times on that show. I mean, I love it. You do love it.
It's an honor, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly
honor.
right. It's an honor. I mean, we got a call this week saying they may be doing a piece on you and Kissinger or something. Obviously, they didn't do it. But it's I said, go right ahead. I mean, I don't care.
I think Chris Matthews has actually toned himself down since the Saturday Night Live started doing the impression, and he's not quite as much fun anymore.
And John McLaughlin maybe have too, but maybe not.
Well, the most famous example of that was Gore in the debates, because the Gore team showed Gore the debate sketch that Saturday Night Live had done when he was going, and then he's huffing and puffing, rolling his eyes and everything.
One more. Let's look at the 1990s. Here is the 1990s.
Do you want to play Truth or Dare?
Truth or Dare? With me? No way.
Way.
No way.
Way?
Excellent.
Like I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Hey, great party. I'm sorry I'm late. I forgot where you lived.
Oh my God!
What happened to this boy, Michael? Where is it? Where is it? We wanted the old Michael, the ABC Michael, the I'll Be There Michael. We want that cute little boy back, not no moonwalking transvestite.
Hello, gorgeous. The movie was like butter.
Like butter.
Like a big stick of butter. Mama!
Oi, all this talk about food, I'm getting hungry, girl.
Okay, Tom Cruise is like a lawyer or something, and he's all, I want the truth about the war, and Jack Nicholson's all, you can't handle the truth, and Tom Cruise was all, but I want it anyways, or whatever. It was good.
Tom Cruise is so yummy.
I'm sorry, but Jack Nicholson was hotter.
Would you?
Definitely.
You're such a whore.
I know.
How do you feel there about gun control?
Well,
slip, sliding.
I'm not sure about gun control.
That's good, good.
But there's no better feeling than tying on a 3-beer buzz and firing off a sawed-off 12-gauge into a beat-up old tractor.
Father-son. What's the worst thing you can say about Saturday Night Live? What's the least flattering thing you feel, can say?
That they've sold out to the extent that they try to develop characters that'll catch on the way primetime shows do, and that they will then milk those sketches to death, the way they did with, let's say, the cheerleaders with Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry did. You know, it was funny the first 750 times, and then it started to get a drag. But they keep a lot of things going too long, well past the point where the audience seems to find them amusing.
Jim?
I think I'm going to go with the sketches don't have endings. It's just something that we talk about in the book and something that a lot of writers do. But I think that there are times when the sketch doesn't need to have an ending, but there are times when the sketches just kind of peter out, and I just wish there was kind of comedic exclamation point at the end. And it's happened through the eras, and I know the writers are very defensive about that, but the more and more we talk to people who are really fans of the show, I think there's an expectation at the end if the scene is going to end, it might as well end on a laugh.
Do you also give them some slack because of the fact you cannot do in this kind of game, in this kind of competition, and live television and all that, no matter how many sketches they prepare all week, it's going to be, in the end, a hit-and-miss thing?
Oh, yeah, we give them lots of slack because it's amazing that they get done what they get done. I mean, remember, as Dana Carvey says, no matter how great you were Saturday night, Monday morning it starts all over again.
Yeah.
So you're starting from a completely blank slate on Monday. You got to come up with, last night they were coming up with stuff for Al Gore that they just had to come up with that day. And tonight they're just writing it, and tomorrow they're going to read it, and then they'll try and polish it and hope for the best on Saturday.
As Lauren has said, the show was being called uneven from the very earliest days. Practically the second show, people were saying. And if we went and looked back at some of those shows we cherish the memory of so much, we would find that they weren't, uniformly 100% Sacco all the time. Right. There were a lot of laws, but they tried a lot of experimental, nutty things, too, that didn't work.
Here's Lorne Michaels on this show in 1997 talking about how SNL first started on NBC. Here it is.
And Herb Schlosser was pretty clear that he wanted a new show in that time period. At the time, he was head of NBC at the time, and there were Carson reruns. Best of Carson was running on Saturday nights, and everybody said they wanted a young urban audience, and everybody, everybody used the words bold and experimental, and every pilot was described as bold and experimental, in the 70s. And so, because it was live, nobody really saw it till it came on, and then it was on. And then once it was on, the first weekend of you can't do that on television, and then, you know, Western civilization as we know it didn't crumble. It didn't crumble, and the reviews were mixed, and the numbers were okay, and then there was a second show, and then we were suddenly on, and then we gained momentum.
And we close with Tom. So you're the critic. Tell me about this show after X number of years.
Well, as Jim said, it keeps reinventing itself and rejuvenating itself, and you've got new talent coming in as old talent goes out.
But what's it meant for the last 25 years to a television audience, and where do you put it in terms of American television and what it's done?
Well, I hate the term, but it's been on the cutting edge. It's managed to stay tipping on the cutting edge all this time, and that's not easy. And they satirize everything about American life, and they're very even-handed. They capture the moment for us and show it back to us so we can laugh at it and even maybe see it more clearly.
Tom Shales, James Andrew Miller, nice little credit to your family there. To Chloe, to these were wonderful names I remember reading here.
Oh,
Chloe was one, Zachary, and what was the other one?
Sophie.
Sophie, there you go.
Yeah,
James and Jim Miller, live from New York, as told by its stars, its writers, and its guests. An uncensored history of Saturday Night Live. My thanks.